Hey Tackle Warehouse fans, here's a look at a swim bait that's pretty awesome. This is the CullShad by Berkley. It's a power bait style swim bait, and it's really unique. This is what I would call more of an inline swim bait, and it's got some features on it that make this thing really special. Before I get into that, 2 sizes, 12 great colors, but really this comes alive when this moves through the water. And I want to start on this back section of the bait because this is really special. And if you've ever fished the Berkley Powerbait Stinger, you know about that honeycomb design. Well, guess what? We've put that on the CullShad, and that's really the key to this bait. And you get 2 things out of that honeycomb design. First one you get is action. And you know, without it even being in the water, just look at that, right? It's not rigid plastic there. It's honeycombed out, and what that does is it gives it flexibility and it gives it that tail movement in the water. And that's really the key to this bait, is the action. The second thing is it's super strong, like a bee's nest. Bee's nests are super strong because of that design. So increased action, but increased durability because of that honeycombing. Next thing, as we go up the body, you're gonna see a wire hook system that has a little clip. And this clip keeps that treble up in the body. So we've got a little slot, we've got a keeper for that treble, you push it in there, and that's gonna allow you to skip this bait. Traditional free swinging hook swim baits, they roll, and that hook doubles over on the line or doubles over on its own body. But with this one, we can roll cast it, we can skip it, we can flip it, we can pitch it. And that hook, that little keeper, keeps it locked in the body. Here's the good news, you ready? Big fish comes and eats it, boom, you've got him hooked. It pulls it out of that clip, and now that bait swings away, and you only have to worry about that hook being in the fish's mouth. So the fish loses some of that leverage that he'd have if it was still connected. So really, really cool hook keeper system. All right, the next thing is we have a weighting potential for this bait. We've got 3 dots, 2 on the belly, 1 on the nose, and they're just little holes to give you an idea of weight position. So all you're gonna do is take a nail weight, and we're gonna stick that nail in those holes. And we can get this bait to sink deeper horizontally. We can get this bait to sink deeper nose down. We can add several weights to get it down really far. So it gives you some options on the depth that you're fishing the bait. And that's really cool. CullShad also, if you look at it, I love this design. It's got an integrated line tie at the nose, right? And that's really great because I'm gonna fish this thing through a lot of cover, including sparse grass and wood like we're doing today. And that keeps that line tie buried in the nose, doesn't put it out there trying to snag on something. So the integrated line tie, really, really key. Let's do a little fishing, and I want to show you about 2 or 3 of the ways that I fish this CullShad, and hopefully we might catch one along the way. The key word for this, versatility. You can honestly fish this all 4 seasons, but it's really, really effective when the bait gets back shallow. So spring, fall, whenever that forage moves back up on the flats, back up near the bank, this thing is super, super effective. So I like to fish this on areas where the fish are setting up or staging. Real good example of that are lay down trees like we're fishing now, docks, grass points. I love to fish around that stuff. Same thing in the fall though, you know, in the fall those fish move back up, they follow the bait, and this bait can be real effective. In the summertime, when those fish get deep, don't count this out. Remember, it's got some little markers there for your nail weights. Nail weight it up, slow your retrieve down, and it can be effective in summer as well. You know, water clarity wise, you know, I will say this, it's really good in almost every water clarity except ultra dirty Yoo-hoo chocolate milk, right? It's kind of like the one scenario I don't like it. Everything else is fine. Regular muddy water, stained, clean to ultra clear. You know, this is a swim bait. It has like a drawing power to it. So the fish really need to see the bait. So everything except, you know, ultra muddy water, it's okay to fish it in. Let me go over some of the retrieve techniques with you and show you how I fish it. The first one is just what I call the chunk and wind. And that's getting it as close to the cover as you can get it and just a slow, steady, medium wind back. Throw a pause into it every once in a while to sort of make this thing just break the continuity, drift off for a second, and then pick back up. Listen to me. Put this thing exactly where you'd put a jig or a weightless wacky. Just get it close to that cover. Once it gets near that cover, slow, medium, wind back. Let that bait work for you. Remember, this bait has a honeycomb tail. It's got a really big paddle in the back that activates the bait. And that combination really makes this thing come alive. So chunk and wind, near cover, it's my #1 way to fish it. My second way I like to fish it is to burn it. And especially if the water's clean to ultra clear, right? Because speed is gonna help mask that lure. And on the burn, all I'm doing, and the great thing about this too is you could be a little looser to the cover. I'm just burning it back, but I'm still throwing those pauses in every once in a while. Great thing about this bait, it doesn't roll, it tracks true all the way back to the boat. Very rare for this style bait. The last technique I'm going to use for this, and this is great when fish are in deeper water. Post-spawn, summertime, early fall, even winter, when fish are deep, I'm going to pop that hook out. I'm going to use nail weights, 1 or 2 nail weights in the belly, and I'm going to weight this thing down. And when I weight it down, I'm going to use a technique called slow rolling, which is a lot like slow rolling a spinnerbait. And when I cast that CullShad out, I'm going to let it sink to the bottom. Actually watch it fall, watch my line, boom. As soon as my line bellows out, that means I'm on the bottom, and I do a ultra slow retrieve back to the boat, pausing to let that bait recontact the bottom, and then I pick it back up. Really cool with the weighting system that we can get this thing down 5, 10, 15, even 20 feet to fish that are living deep. So a lot of versatility in the way I fish it. Almost not a wrong way to fish it, but they're my favorite 3. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about the gear I'm going to use to fish this brand new CullShad by Berkley Powerbait. Basically, I'm going to fish it on a very similar rod and reel to what you would use your other swim baits. So 7.3 to 7.6 medium heavy rod. I prefer the 7.3 for the smaller CullShad, and I like the 7.6 for the bigger CullShad, but both of them are medium heavy. Remember, when we're swim baiting, we don't want a heavy action rod. We actually want a little tip in that rod, right? Because we have to load that swim bait for the cast, and we also want just a little delay in that hook set. That fish comes up and eats it. We want that tip to load before that solid connection in the back happens, okay? So 7.3 to 7.6 medium heavy rod. Man, I'm a big fan of the Veritas. This is the tournament edition. Love this thing. It's got the power lock, super sensitive. It's got these custom designed grips on it. And let me get to the reel now. The reel, I'm gonna keep it real basic. Listen to me, guys. You want a low profile casting reel that has a moderate to fast gear ratio. Something I would say 7-to-1 up to 8-to-1. I steer away from the real slow reels, and I don't want the ultra high speed reels. I want a moderate to fast retrieve reel. The SX is a great one. This is the Revo SX. Another great option is the Revo STX. It's also in that higher gear ratio. It's perfect for this CullShad. And then one last option is that brand new Abu Garcia MGX. Really nice reel for lighter baits, but also a great reel for that smaller CullShad. It'll throw that thing a mile. All right, let me get into line. I'm gonna use that same 80-20 mix you've heard me talk about before. And 80% of the time, I wanna throw those CullShads on straight fluorocarbon line. And I like Berkley Trilene, 100% fluorocarbon. I'm gonna use 15 to 25 pound fluorocarbon, depending on the situation. You know, normal situations with that smaller CullShad, 15, 17. But when I go to that bigger one and I get around some heavy cover, 20, 25 pound fluorocarbon. Remember, fluorocarbon's dense, it sinks, and that's going to give that CullShad that amazing action that we need to get those strikes, okay? So 80% of the time, straight fluorocarbon. But 20% of the time, if that cover is ultra heavy, nasty, trees, brush, super thick grass, I'll go to braid. I like that Berkley X9 braid. You know, 40 or 50 pound braid is perfect. And I'll either tie it direct or just use a short fluorocarbon leader. 20% of the time when that cover is super heavy. Let me tell you, you use this gear mixed with this bait, and you're gonna see why this CullShad is a very unique swim bait that catches a lot of fish. This is gonna be a key bait, especially when the forage has more of an inline movement, right? You know, there's certain forage that have big S movements and other forage that swim more inline, like a shad, like a blueback herring, like an alewife. For those bait fish where they swim more inline, these things are gonna be a killer. Man, if you like swim baits, you gotta check this one out. It's bad to the bone. This is the CullShad by Berkley Powerbait.